people struggling to live. Let's talk about it.
At this point, I don't even know if it's worth it anymore. How are we supposed to survive and live as humans, parents, adults? I dropped my son off at preschool this morning, and the director came up to me and he handed me a new pamphlet for this year and a paper, and he was like, our tuition is going up. Sir, what do you mean? I already pay $190 a week for him to go Monday through Friday, 7:30 until about 4:30. The price went from $190 to $265. I'm gonna show you so you don't think I'm lying. $265. This tuition is almost as much as my rent. This is why moms don't work anymore. It is cheaper to stay home and take care of their kids. Contemplating life anymore.
I mean, I don't know. That's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's the actual average cost of daycare. If it is, let me know in the comments down below. I don't have any children or anything. Only thing I have is a dog, and she can kind of take care of herself. I kind of train her, and she's a little spoiled as well, but she don't cost no $200 and something a week, right? But I will say the average American home right now, though, is feeling the actual cost of living, because not only is maybe the cost of daycare going up, but the cost of food, right? The cost of gas, the cost of just everyday living expenses is going up. She talked about the ability for one parent to stay home, right? I feel as if now with the economy the way it is right now, yes, it may be cheaper as far as in a daycare sense, right? But when you only have one income, especially if they're not like a high earner, then it's almost impossible not to have two incomes. And that's where the difference in the everyday cost of everything else besides daycare comes in, right? And that's why you need that other income. Because yeah, it may be cheaper in a daycare sense to you just stay home, right? But guess what? That child still needs to eat, right? Maybe that child still needs diapers, probably not diapers, right? But clothes, shoes, just everyday essentials, right? And then on top of that, you need insurance because that child is going to get sick. That child is going to have this happen, that happen, whatever it is, right? So all those different costs and all those different things adds up on top of you as an adult still taking care of yourself as well, right? Also, if you have the ability to make a good income, that should give you the motivation, at least in my mind, right? To maybe, if you don't have your own business, again, start your own business, right? Because that's a bunch of tax write-offs and a bunch of tax deductions and just tax benefits overall that you can receive to, if you are that single income earner, help preserve some of your income and lower y'all's tax bracket. Therefore, at the end of the year, on top of maybe there's some child deductions and things of that nature, now you have some business deductions, X, Y, and Z, right? And now you're really starting to take control of your finances and take control of your life, right? Save and invest and just, build for the future. But let's get back into it.
The cost of living is getting actually outrageous. I started today like, oh yay, I'm a second year lawyer, like, oh, I made it through my first year. And I ended it really pissed off because I was like, oh yeah, I am a second year lawyer and I still cannot afford to live on my own in a way that would not be stressful or in a way that I would not struggle or in a way that I can do so without financially burdening myself by going into debt. My goal this year was to move back home with my parents, move back to New Orleans, which is a cheaper cost of living market, especially compared to New York, LA, Miami, the other three markets I was considering. Move home for a year, save my money, and then buy a house. Right? Make a smart investment. Don't throw all my money out the window on rent. I can rent out a room, help me pay down the mortgage faster. Just being savvy and strategic and smart. Well, we're now officially a year into that plan, hence, oh yay, I'm a second year lawyer, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I have enough money for a down payment, but you know what I cannot afford? Damn near 7% interest rate on your principal mortgage amount. Rising property taxes, rising insurance costs, especially in Louisiana. So while I have down payment money, especially if I use an FHA loan, I literally could not afford in a financially responsible way my mortgage. I would be house poor.
All right, I'm gonna pause right there just because I want to touch on a few things real quick. A lawyer, a doctor, those kinds of jobs, right? You expect them to be on the higher earner side, right? I don't know what debts and things she has like that, right? However, I don't also know how she's budgeting because she didn't mention how much she made, but I would assume as a lawyer in the first year, maybe she's not making a ton of money, right? I don't know all the specifics like that, right? But if you have enough to save for a down payment on top of, she mentioned going back home, living with her parents, right? So that must mean her parents either giving her a major discount for living there or letting her live there for free. So you should be able to save even more money, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And then she talked about Louisiana being a lower market as far as cost of living. You know, I've never been to Louisiana, so I don't know the actual cost of living there, right? But if I had to assume what she was talking about, the lower cost of living, on top of her living with her parents, then, you know, everything should be balancing itself out, right? I will also add on the actual cost of housing in the market on top of the interest rates being what they are is just crazy nowadays, right? I feel like housing has become one of those things where we accept it for the scam it is, right? Because we talk about inflation and the house of the value of the house going up, right? The value of this going up, X, Y, Z, you know, and it being an investment, all these good things as far as real estate goes, right? However, there's other things that we consider almost I would put in the same realm of a house, such as maybe a car, but we consider that a depreciating asset and the value of that goes down every year that is used or every moment that is used, right? But a house can be used and be, let's say, 10, 15 years down the line, right? And almost hold its value no matter if there's cracks here, there's cracks there, this is worn down, this is worn down, this needs to be, you know, replaced, you know, whatever it is, right? But we'll say, okay, it's held his value. Like, to me, I feel like that's almost one of the biggest scams, because also on top of it holding his value, when people go to sell the houses, they're not, okay, I'm gonna sell the house for what I got it, right? Or even try, maybe let's make a little bit of profit, right? So I can get a little bit bang for my buck. They're like, okay, I'm gonna go buy it for $100,000, and when I sell it, I'm gonna sell it $50,000 to $100,000 more than what I even got it for. That's astronomically like crazy, and we're gonna call it, oh, that's what the market is. No, that's not what the market is. I feel like that's what greed is, you know? Like, we talk about what is something really worth, right? Houses nowadays, especially from where they were 50 years ago to now, like, there's a lot of grandma and grandpa sitting high and mighty right now for the simple fact that when we come into the market now in 2025, current day, and we went through all these different things throughout all the years of inflation, deflation, market being this, market being that, you know, you're going to say corporations buying this, people buying this, people valuing it this way, society being this way, whatever it is, they've benefited from that so much that it doesn't even make sense, right? People buying houses for $40,000 and selling them for, I don't know, 200 and some $1,000, right? Like, those are real numbers. Like, in some cases, even more than that in 2025, right? So I don't know. I feel like, to me, housing's a little bit of a scam, right? But again, hey, that's the world we live in, so we just gotta adapt. But let's get back to it.
So if I'm going to be house poor, that defeats the purpose of being fiscally responsible and purchasing a house. So there's that. Also, the money that I've saved is probably just enough for a year's worth of rent. I have multiple reservations with renting in New Orleans. My main one being, why would I pay rent in a city where my parents own a house? I just think that's counterproductive. And two being, I would rather rent in a more expensive market like New York. And that's just housing. That's not counting how expensive everything else has gotten as well. I saved that money by living at home, but even still, I had to make such big financial sacrifices to still save that money, even with living at home, because the cost of other things is so ridiculously high. Like I've been talking about, I've been suffering hair loss. Every time I go to the dermatologist, that's $150 an appointment per half hour. The medicine that I was prescribed to alleviate my hair loss is about $60 a bottle. The other serum that works well for my hair is also $60 a bottle. And maybe to some people, those are not necessities, but it's a necessity to me for my hair not to fall out. So I can't cut those expenses. And there's things that I have tremendously cut from my spending habits. For example, I don't have a gym membership anywhere. I cut down shopping for clothes. I hardly ever shop for clothes. Maybe every couple months I'll get a couple new pieces. But if you know me, I used to shop very consistently. I probably was buying something like once a month. I basically completely cut out any type of luxury shopping as well. Even on Christmas, I decided to take my Christmas money and buy a camera to invest in my content creation. And I asked for the rest of the money to be put in my account so I could pay down my credit card bill. I get my hair done a lot less often. If you knew me in law school, you knew I stayed changing my hair. I don't do that anymore. I cut out lash extensions. I cut out laser. I hardly ever Uber, especially compared to how I used to Uber when I was in school. I largely consolidate eating out for the weekends. Monday through Friday, I pretty much almost always go to work and go home. The thing that I splurge on is literally going out a couple of days, once or twice with my friends, my hair, skin, and makeup. And to me, those are things like, well, what the heck? Are you going to live a life? You have to be able to live a life. All that to say, I have the money to live on my own, but I could not do so in a comfortable manner that would not be financially stressful. And I'm sitting here like, wow, I can't even imagine having student loans on top of all of these things. And I'm just getting increasingly more frustrated because the older generations really do not understand. They do not understand. They think you make so much money. They think your dollar stretches so far. They just do not get it because when they were young professionals, their dollar went a lot further than ours did.
All right, I'm gonna kind of stop right there because I feel like we kind of got a good gist of things, right? I don't know. I feel like I'm not judging here, but I feel like I'm a little indifferent on some of her views, right? She mentioned, I guess, things to her that are necessities, right? Getting her hair done, skincare, going out with her friends, living a life, those kinds of things, right? However, for me, if you're serious about building your actual financial wealth, right, and things like that, now I understand, right, take care of yourself, right, but I would just presume that there are a lot of, even some of the most organic and natural things out there, right, for hair, skin, all these different things don't cost $60 a bottle, right? Some of the things that you may be doing don't necessarily, I don't know, in my opinion, they don't necessarily just equate to what you should have, especially you living at home, right? You talked about living at home, not paying rent, because why would I pay rent in the same city that my parents live in, right? Like, I don't know. To me, I think it's a little bit of her not saving enough and mismanaging her money on top of the cost of living, right? I don't think it's just one or the other, right? It could be both simultaneously, but I feel like for her, she may have to do a little self-reflection and look in the mirror. That's just my opinion, right? And that's not necessarily saying, right, she can't have the things that she's passionate about and have the things that she wants to spend money on, right? But when you tell me that, okay, the cost of living is this, right? All I do is work, go home. I only do these couple things, X, Y, and Z, and I don't pay for this. I don't have any school debt, yada, yada. And I'm looking at you like, well, why don't you have more? Right? You have all these benefits at your disposal. No debt for this, right? You're being able to live somewhere at a low cost or no cost, right? And all you have to pay for is basically your everyday essentials. You just have all these different things and all these different avenues that are working for you. Yet, what do you really have to show for it? As someone who pays his own bills, I handle my own responsibilities, take care of myself, avoid debts, all these different things. I feel like I'm building a good, little chest, right? And a good little money vault that I have something to show for the fruits of my labor, right? I'm not out here just free willy-nilly spending whatever, doing whatever, all these different things, right? That don't mean I'm not living life, right? I still indulge in maybe the foods that I like sometimes, right? Doing this thing, doing that thing, maybe traveling a little bit, all these different things, right? However, it's about having balance, and learning, okay, what is truly important? Is there a cheaper alternative, right? That's still just as effective? Is there a thing that could make me just as happy? Whether, okay, maybe I might not get this one thing that goes along with it. However, there are plenty of other things that I get that I also get doing this other thing. So I don't know. That's me. That's my opinion, right? But if you stuck with me this long, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for all the love and support. And if you liked the video, go ahead and smash that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe as well, as it's only going to help build this channel. I'm going to reiterate and say it every video. I want to build a channel and a platform here that people want to come engage with me. People want to come hear what I have to say, want to give their thoughts and give their opinions on everything I may have said in the video, or they see me say in another video, right? So with that being said, go ahead and drop a comment below if there's anything that you want me to talk about. or if you have anything to say in terms of what maybe I have said in this video or what you have heard. But with that being said, until next video, and I'm out.